Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita is titled Sankhya Yoga, the yoga of knowledge, where Krishna begins his message to Arjuna to educate him on the most profound truths, just to give him a taste of the magnificence of this knowledge. It's not really directly applicable to Arjuna's condition. In fact, that starts in the next chapter. Chapter 3 is titled Karma Yoga, where he actually talks how Arjuna should act. So here, as far as we are concerned, we start this sermon with the ultimate truth that the self, the spirit, the God principle within, Atman, is always indestructible, permanent. These bodies come and go. And now he's going down one step further. Even if you consider yourself to be this individual, the body is just a vehicle. It's a car which takes you from place to place. What is within the body is what is important, which is your mind and intellect. That is actually what you are. So, even death, he says, there is a purpose. Just as you wear a pair of clothes, and when they are no longer useful, you discard them and take a new pair. That's what he talked about in 22, where we stopped, right? Verse 22. Just as a man casting off worn out garments puts on new ones, so does the embodied, casting out worn out bodies, enter new ones. So even death, see, nothing to do with old or young. Whenever the time is there for death, it is because this subtle body, the mind intellect, can no longer find expression, fulfillment. So it needs to discard itself, the body, and move on to the next. This is the theory of reincarnation. And why we call it a theory? Because nobody can prove it. But if you look at the logic and reason, thousands of years ago in the Upanishads, they first put forth this incredible insight into life. So when a person dies, you know the body has died, but the sum total of his inner energy, which is the thoughts and desires, nobody knows what happens. And the law of matter is something cannot go into nothing. This is a physical law. It applies at the mental level also. And when a person is born, you can account for how the physical body is born. But nobody can account for how that person got that distinct individual nature from birth. Two siblings with the same DNA, same parentage, totally different natures they came with. So this is the connection. What can't be accounted for here shows up here. And it makes perfect sense because you use this body to fulfill desires. So when the body is no longer there, the desires are there. So they have to take a new body. And this will go on as long as there are desires. This cycle goes on. So through spiritual knowledge, when you remove this egocentric desire which sustains everything, you are free from the cycle of birth and death. In fact, that's your mission. You're born so that you can go beyond birth and death. This is the reason for your birth as a human being. And nobody is doing it. So at least understand what's happening. Now, when you're going to get on to doing something about it, I don't know. But at least you must start with understanding, right? This is the 22nd verse. So people have this misconception that the soul moves. Soul cannot move. Soul is everywhere. Something everywhere cannot move. It is the mind and intellect which moves. So the example given is a beautiful example. The sun and the mirror, right? Sunlight is everywhere. Sunlight doesn't move. Wherever it hits a reflecting mirror, there's a reflected sun. That is you. So what is death? The mirror of the sun, the frame of the mirror is cast off. And the mirror moves to a new frame. There's a new reflection. This is death, this is birth. Sun remains as it is. So nobody understands. They all believe Atman moves. It cannot. Something can move only from a place where it is to a place where it's not. Self is everywhere. It doesn't move. So he is educating Arjuna on these highest truths, whether you take it from the level of the self or even your subtle body. So the message is, this goes on. This is how life functions. You have to focus on what you ought to do in this world. And that's the whole teaching of the Gita. So you must understand the whole picture of life, fix the goal of enlightenment, and start functioning. That's how you live in this world. No fanatic beliefs, no fear, no nothing. It's pure knowledge, and action follows knowledge. That is the life of a Vedantin. So he continues in 23 to complete the message. So before we continue, any clarifications from last time? All clear? Right. 23.
Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapah, na shoshayati marutaha. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavakaha, na chainam kledayantyapah, na shoshayati marutaha.
Weapons do not cleave this, nor fire burns this, nor water wets this, nor wind dries it. So what he is trying to educate Arjuna is the self is so subtle beyond these layers of matter. So the matter cannot touch it. See, the principle of life is the gross cannot control the subtle. It's the subtle which controls the gross. So what is matter? The world, in other words, they divided it into 5 elements, which is pure physics, right? Space, air, fire, water, earth. Earth is the grossest, subtler is water, subtler is fire, air, and space. I mean, if you look at it in terms of physics, it's just solid, liquid, gas, energy, and space. So, very simple. That is the world. There's nothing else. Out of these elements, space is the subtlest. In fact, none of the elements can do anything to space, right? See, air cannot touch space. You can have foul air, but you can't have foul space. The self is even subtler than space. So he says, how can weapons cut this? How can fire burn this? How can water wet this? How can the wind dry this? It's not possible. It's way subtler. It's like anything that happens in the dream cannot touch the waking state. Right? Suppose there's a fire in the dream. The waking state is not burnt. Suppose there's a flood in the dream. It's beyond that level itself. Similarly, the self is beyond this realm of matter. And the truth is, just as while you're dreaming, you are the waker, even now, while you're going through this delusion, each one of us is the self. Now, this truth you have to try and at least conceptualize. As you go along with the knowledge, you'll relate to it. But if you've not heard it before, it's incredible. What Vedanta declares, you are not this limited, powerless individual that is born and will die. You are something beyond it. So he's trying to educate Arjuna in steps. 24.
अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुः अचलोऽयं सनातनः अच्छेद्योऽयमदाह्योऽयम् अक्लेद्यो शोष्य एव च नित्यः सर्वगतस्थाणुः अचलोऽयं सनातनः.
This cannot be cut, burnt, wetted, dried. This is eternal, all-pervading, stable, immovable, and ancient. So this verse is the passive voice. Last verse was active. Because, see, you may say weapons today cannot touch something, but nuclear weapons can, right? Person 500 years ago would say maybe there are weapons in the future which can do something. It cannot be done. It is beyond the world itself. So the world cannot touch it. It is the eternal, all-pervading, immovable, ancient self. So friends, if this world is a wave, the self is the ocean. So you can imagine, from the ocean comes the wave. It exists in the ocean, it lives in the ocean, it goes back to the ocean. In fact, it's amazing how physics has also proved that. This universe is a expansion, and then we're talking about billions, trillions of years. The whole thing folds back into itself, and then it expands and it folds back. This is creation, sarga, and destruction, pralaya, which the scriptures talked about. This whole thing is just a wave, which physics also proves. So what is the substratum? What is the reality beyond this going and coming? That's the self. So he's talking here about the ultimate truth of life. So you need the examples to understand it, right? From your mind comes the dream. exists in the dream exists in your mind, dissolves in your mind. So this whole universe comes from the Atman, the self, exists in it, dissolves back into it. And the amazing truth is, you are that self. Now, why are you considering yourself to be this little, powerless, infinitesimal being? This is the problem. 25.
अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि अव्यक्तोऽयमचिन्त्योऽयम् अविकार्योऽयमुच्यते तस्मादेवं विदित्वैनं नानुशोचितुमर्हसि.
This is said to be unmanifest, inconceivable, unchangeable. Therefore, knowing this as such, you should not grieve. See, here he points out, you may say, why should I know this metaphysical truths of life? It seems so incredible. And I am here living in this world. What is my relation with that? If you don't relate to that knowledge, that truth, what will happen? You will grieve. Correct. This is what you must understand. You are searching for the permanent state of happiness. This world is impermanent. Your body, mind, intellect is impermanent. The world is always changing. If you remain restricted to that, you will end up in nothing but sorrow. In the 16th chapter, he says that Chintama parimeyam cha pralayantam upashritaha, means immersed in innumerable anxiety, ending only with your death. He says that. This is going to be the life. So everybody is agitated, wanting something, and anxious whether they're going to get it or not. No matter what you have. So this is interesting. There's US Opens going on, right? Tennis. So I was seeing some of these interviews. It's very philosophical. One of the American guys, who nobody knows, he's saying, it was my ambition to make it to the main draw. See, there are 128 players. If you know tennis, 128 players who play in the main draw of the tournament. And the top 100 in the world get automatic entry. Now the other 28 spots, you have to go through qualifying. I don't know if you knew that. So you have to win 3 rounds of qualifying. So he said, my first goal was to qualify for the qualifying. Now, who are the fellows who play the qualifying? You have to be from 100 to 200 in the world, right? Now you try and reach 200. There are thousands of people, thousands. So for that guy, 200, coming to that 200 so you can enter qualifying is a enlightenment. They think it's the greatest thing in the world. And the minute you get there, what happens? If I just get into the main draw, main draw itself is a massive thing. We come to the first round, you get, I think, $100,000 just to make it to the first round. It's like that. Now the guy who beat Djokovic lost a couple of days ago. The fellow who beat him, unknown guy. I mean, unknown in the sense relatively. None of you will know him. unless you follow the game. And he was ranked some 25, 30 in the world. He says, 15 times I've come to the third round of a Grand Slam. I've never made it to the fourth round. What an achievement. Oh, for him, what an achievement. So, everybody has that unfulfillment. And the fellow who lost, who's supposed to be the greatest player of all time, what is he trying? So for these guys, coming to qualifying is great. Then coming to the main draw. After that, it is getting to the fourth round, like this fellow. And then one Grand Slam, please, one title, so I can tell my grandchildren. That fellow is also planning that far ahead. Put the cup on their head, have grandchildren. And fellow has won 24, Novak. And you know what he's working for? 24, he's tied with Margaret Court for the maximum number of Grand Slams. He's trying and trying. This whole year he's not, first year in 20 years he's not got a Grand Slam or whatever. So now full preparation for January, next Grand Slam. He says, I'm fully now charged. Where is the end? Grief. It's constant. And Nadal is trying to get to 20. He's on 22. 2 years he's been trying. Body doesn't cooperate. They don't understand. Body has a limitation. No, somehow. Now, I'm not saying you should not. You don't get the wrong message. But why should it disturb you? You do the best you can, and that's it. But everybody is grieving because the mind never lets you rest at all until the body wears away and dies. And then again you're back to square one. So what he's saying here in 25 is, if you focus on that unchangeable, inconceivable, unmanifest self, immediately that grief, that agitation goes away. You're focused on what is your mission and purpose in life, and your whole focus is what do I need to do to get there. So this grief is all egocentric. The minute you have this ego and egocentric desire, the grief comes up. So that's what he's educating you. You focus on your mission in life. And in Arjuna's case, it happens to be fighting. It could be fighting and killing, doesn't matter. You focus on that. There's no grief. Because how did Arjuna start the Gita? He says, if I kill my family, it's wrong and I will be in grief. The conclusion is, it is right and you will be free from grief. The same act of fighting. So the whole thing is how to shift your perception. How to shift your attitude in life. That's it. So whatever you're going through can be converted into happiness. It's your mind. Don't look around and say, oh God, with this person, how can I ever be happy? You can only be happy when you know how to handle this person. That's the Gita. Knowing this as such, don't grieve. So, and then in 26 onwards, he comes down to a more mundane view of life. He says, even if you consider people being born and dying, you can't understand the self. Even there you should not grieve because it's inevitable. How can you grieve over something which is inevitable? It's so stupid. That's what he tells him now. And then in verse 30, he comes to the final conclusion. Interesting how he builds up the thought flow. Yeah.
There's a question from Bhakti Rahul.
Ah.
So, is it correct to say that we are a part of Brahman, and when we die, we reunite with Brahman? Does this mean we lose our self/identity in the whole?
Are you saying that since we are part of Brahman, when you die, you reunite with Brahman and lose your identity
In the whole.
in the whole? No, it doesn't happen automatically. I just told you. Very simple. Then just everybody die. You'll get back to enlightenment. What kind of a. It doesn't work that way. Because, as we just explained, what separates you from the self, from Brahman, the reality, is ego and egocentric desire. So, unless you get rid of that, you cannot unite with the self. So, the body is only a vehicle to take your ego and egocentric desires and fulfill them in the world. So, death is like the car is gone, your vehicle is gone. Your car is crashed doesn't mean you die. It's like that. Somebody bashes your car while you're in the mall. Nothing going to happen to you. It's like that. Death is like that. So that same ego and egocentric desire will come back. And it will keep coming back. This is the cycle of birth and death. Unless you decide to remove that ego and desire, and the only way to do that is through higher knowledge. As you gain knowledge of the higher, this lower desires drop away. That's what you're trying here. So when you gain the knowledge completely, you remove that ego and desire completely, you gain enlightenment. That's when you become one with Brahman. So it has nothing to do with physical death. Physical death is just the body is gone. Everything else remains as it is. Good or bad. Sometimes you see saints right from a young age, extremely saintly lives. Shankara left everything at 8 years old. How is it possible? It is that same evolved state, but they did not get enlightenment in the past. So you start exactly where you left off. Even in the world, Mozart wrote a whole symphony at the age of 4. Picasso was painting at 2. See, that talent, that mind, that intellect will carry forward. There's one brilliant chess prodigy, at 14 he's beating all the. How is it possible? Somewhere it came divine, nothing like that. It is that you're so focused in that area, it will come up. Now you say, I have no talent, because all your past janmas you didn't do anything. That is continuing. No. Nothing you did, nothing will continue. How come they have talent, I don't? No, you know the answer to that. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question related to karma and interconnectedness of karma in family or friends, because there was a horrific accident where a teenage boy had more than one person in the car, ran a stop sign, and the friends of the family, young girl, 14, instantly died. So her karma is free, her body, she's not her purpose anymore, but her brother is seriously injured, but the people who drove the car to make that bad choice are fine. So how does that relate when you have...
See, you're asking about an accident, for example, and how everything comes together. It's the same principle. So, see, in this 1 hour that this class is going on, how many deaths have happened in this world? I'm not talking just human beings, all living beings. How many have died in this 1 hour? Can anybody take a guess? You can't even guess. It's trillions. You ingested billions of bacteria with your breakfast. All of them have been destroyed by your stomach. While you're sitting and listening. It's constant. Now, just because you see few people dying together, you say, oh, how did this happen? It's the same principle. It's happening all the time. So, cause and effect. So, another person could be the means for your death, like an accident or whatever. But the point is, you had to go at that time. So, how the whole thing comes together, it's a cosmic phenomenon, right? Like I told you. It is inconceivable for a person to understand. But the principle you must understand. Now, that doesn't mean you don't take precautions and you don't do what you need to do. In spite of all that, it happens. There's a cause and effect. Got it? In fact, that's what he talks about at the now 26. Yeah. Shikhar. It's okay. It's not that serious. Shikhar. You're looking like okay.
Just an extension of the previous question, there are instances where people take their own lives. How is that,
Every death you've taken your own life. Every death is that. Your mind intellect decides, in other words, all the desires put together come to that force that this body is no longer useful. You get it? Now, a person consciously does it, same principle, he believes genuinely that there is no point, you cannot find happiness in this world. If you have come to that conclusion, you'll want to take your life. Because the whole reason for life is to find happiness. If you're convinced you can't find it, that's a suicidal person. I'm not saying they should or should not do it. That is the reason. The minute you believe. There was a case, case going on now. A fellow in the Hamptons or something, he killed himself because of trying to show a great lifestyle, whereas $35 million in debt. So till he could go on borrowing, he was going on. The minute he came to the conclusion, now there is no escape, he killed himself. So it's like that. But if you look at it philosophically, this is conscious. Death is unconscious. Nobody wants to die. But all the desires put together, this is called resultant desire. The effect of all the desires is death. So that's why you don't know what you're grieving for. It is what you need, but you don't understand it. So this is exactly what Krishna is saying. There is no necessity to grieve. You focus on doing what ought to be done. You don't have to expect death. You don't have to quote death, but you must understand it's an inevitable part. And why it happens. Then where's the problem? Whatever time is available, you keep doing what ought to be done. That's what you're supposed to be doing. Keep doing it. (26)
अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि अथ चैनं नित्यजातं नित्यं वा मन्यसे मृतं तथापि त्वं महाबाहो नैनं शोचितुमर्हसि.
But if you think this as constantly being born and constantly dying, even then, O Mahabaho, you should not grieve like this. So, see, he deals with this problem of Arjuna's grief. He comprehensively covers it at all levels. At the spiritual level, there is no need to grieve because the real self, the soul, is indestructible. That we discussed. If you look at the essence of the personality, which is the mind intellect, there is no necessity to grieve because that carries forward. Now, what are you grieving for is the physical frame, the body. He says, even that you should not grieve because the body will die. It's constantly being born and constantly dying. Why should you grieve over something which is inevitable? It's like grieving when the sun sets. Oh, I'm so sad. Why? The sun has gone. The sun rises, it will go. So, this world, friends, is nothing but birth and death. Do you realize that? Forget about actual death. Even within your life, it's nothing but birth and death. There was a time you were an infant. That stage died and childhood was born. Where is your childhood now? It's dead. Youth is born. Where is your youth? Most of you at least. Dead long ago. Then middle age got born. You look at a fellow children's playing in the outside. Oh, I wish. Gone. It's dead. Old age will be born. Old age will die. Death will be born. Death dies. Birth will be born. It's constant. So what are you grieving about? That's what he's trying to say. In fact, why do you grieve? You don't grieve because the person dies. Do you know why you grieve? You grieve because your supply from that person is gone. You see in the movies, one person says, I got a disease, I'm going to die. Don't go, what will happen to me? Arre? What about that person? No, actually you're only worried about what's going to happen to you. So he says, you're selfish, you will grieve. At least that much sense you must have. Don't grieve over the inevitable. So prepare yourself that even this shall pass away. Remember that poem. Enjoy every phase of life. Nobody is saying not to. But you must go through every phase of life understanding fully well that it's temporary. When you get attached, you expect things to remain the same. There's no such thing. Anybody born is susceptible to death at any time. It's a fact. But you believe, no, they should die after me. After me you die, whatever, how much ever you want. So the whole thing, you look at it from an egocentric angle and suffer. A person's mind is susceptible to change at any time. Do you know that? You expect it to remain the same. It doesn't work. At one time you were everything for your children. It doesn't remain that way. Time comes, they have their family. They may not look at you. Their mind has changed. How many people have told me how ungrateful they are? Do you know what all I did for them? What is this? Why are you expecting their mind to remain the same? It doesn't. So you don't know what you're asking. Your mind changes, their mind can change. Your body changes, their body will change. Money changes, environments change, weather changes, everything is nothing but change. So he says, if you understand it, why is there grief? At something which is inevitable. It's the height of stupidity to grieve over change. That means you're not prepared, you've not assessed it. How could my own mother do this? How could my own... One fellow came to me once, his mother is partial. He's a grown man, he's crying. That's why I have tissue here next to me. I always have a box of tissues because most people come, have to, knowledge won't help. So, I said, what happened? My own mother. I said, what did she do? My brother is earning much more. His brother, he is a multi-millionaire. This fellow is only millionaire. That was his complaint. the ordinary millionaire. And the mother favors that fellow because brother takes her to vacation and I don't know what all. You give me a list. I said, even I'll favor him if I'm getting all that. What is the problem? He's saying, oh, what are you saying? I said, this is life, man. Whoever gives more, you'll be favored. That's it. That is the world. You are expecting that person's mind to cater to you. You will suffer. You should learn to be self-sufficient. That's why that is Vedanta. Your happiness should not be dependent over things which change. It should be changeless. But you don't understand until it's too late. That's the problem. So if you think this as constantly being born and constantly dying, even then, O Mahabaho, you should not grieve. And that's what he continues in 27. Let's take 27, then we'll take up the question because it's the same flow of thought. Let's complete that.
जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि जातस्य हि ध्रुवो मृत्युः ध्रुवं जन्म मृतस्य च तस्मादपरिहार्येऽर्थे न त्वं शोचितुमर्हसि.
One of the most philosophical verses which will help you in your practical life. He says, certain indeed is death for the born and certain is birth for the dead. Therefore, you should not grieve over the inevitable, apariharye. It's inevitable. So like I just explained, everything has a beautiful functioning in this world of birth and death. See, the summer has to die. Only then the fall is born. Fall is coming now. Then the fall will die. Winter will be born. It has to happen for this world to be maintained. Otherwise, it can't maintain itself. In fact, that's why they deified these concepts, right? So, Brahma, not Brahman. Brahman is the reality. From Brahman comes Brahma, the creation, creator. Vishnu is the maintainer. And Shiva is the destroyer. So, creation, maintenance, destruction are the three facets to this world. So they are deified. They're not apart. They're the same aspects. In fact, one of the gods is Dattatreya, who has all three deities in his, the heads of all three in one person. Right? That's what it means. So, like I said, childhood dies, youth born, youth dies, middle age born, middle age dies, old age. In this cycle of birth and death, you are maintained. So maintenance is nothing but destruction and creation. So what are we saying? It's a certainty. But you're not prepared. That's the problem. I've told you, right? It happened to all of us. At 20, you're in that arrogance of youth. Can you look at a 50-year-old and you'll say, you will never think you'll be there. It's impossible. Hey, these old people. And now, before you know it, you're 50. I got a card that day. I don't know how they find my address, my college, here in America. Your 30th reunion. And all the ghost figures from 30 years back, some of them have come together. Smiling reunion. No, they will not let go. Go on dwelling in the past. You can't conceive that you will end up there. I remember when we had these guys coming to college for reunion. What is it? Old fellows coming here. But it's certain. See, we are so stupid. I'm telling you the limit of your stupidity. You don't understand. Not only are you not prepared for change, even things that don't change, you're not prepared for. Simple example is you go on fighting with your spouse, right? They've not changed. Same nagging is going on for last 20 years. But still you're agitated. You can't assess simple things. Their nature is inevitable. A person has vasanas. Vasanas means the person's nature. The nature will express as thoughts, desires, actions. This is life. So if a person has vasana, they lose their temper. Their action will be, they will be angry. Now why do you fight with that person? How dare you talk to me like that? Why do you get angry? That is their nature. It's like saying, why is the summer hot? What do you mean, why is the summer hot? That is the nature. So not only are we not prepared for changes, even things that relatively are the same, such as a person's nature, you don't assess. So remember this, use your intellect, assess how life changes and where it remains the same. People's nature will never change, trust me. Because my job is to make them change. I have not been successful at all. After years and years. Now where you're going to be successful? So assess their nature. Yes, this employee comes late. Now there's no point going on getting angry. Either you fire that fellow. You say no, he's very efficient whenever he comes to work. But he comes late. Assess that. He's late, but he has to be here. Now why make your blood pressure go up? Correct? Therefore, you should not grieve over the inevitable. Remember this one line. Do not get agitated over things which you have no control. It's inevitable. A hot-tempered person will get angry. A lazy person will be on the couch. They will not move. That's it. Now, why do you get angry? How much you sit on your children's head. Study, 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 study. They have not that nature. Okay, they'll be, they will not. How many years and decades your blood pressure has gone up? Certain indeed is death for the born, certain is birth for the dead. Therefore, Arjuna, do not grieve over the inevitable. Your focus should be on what you can control. And the only thing you can control is your life, your actions, your reactions. Work on that. I can't control that person from getting angry, but I can control myself not getting affected by that. Work on that. That you won't work on. You'll go on complaining all your life. I mean, how absurd is human life? You have no idea. There's a limit to stupidity. Yes, now we can take up the questions. Umesh.
Hariom Gautamji, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I have two questions. One is from the previous verse and one from this verse. When a person dies and people say, may the soul rest in peace, what does it
You ask them. Seriously, I'm saying. Nobody knows what they're talking. Now, why are you asking me what? No meaning. Simply some statement. So, soul is always in peace, first of all. Why are you making the soul in non-peace? First, you be peaceful. So, it has no meaning. You're just asking for something without not knowing. So, if their mind is agitated because of too many desires, that will continue. By you see, it's like people saying, let's all pray for world peace. Right? By you sitting and praying here that war will stop. Either you go do something about the war. Just let's pray for world peace. It's the most absurd things. There's a poem by I forget his name. He's an American humorist, as my uncle used to say. If you want something and are just dead set, don't plead for it with your eyes wet. Tears won't bring it, try sweat, as my uncle used to say. If you want something, don't plead for it, don't beg for it with your eyes wet, crying in front of God. Do this. Tears won't bring it, try sweat. That's why America is productive. They don't sit and pray. They work for their whatever they want. So rest of the world you'll find where they are not productive, they go on praying. Temples after temples, prayers after prayers, nothing happens. Nobody wants to work. Tears won't bring it. Try sweat. So to pray for something, it has absolutely no meaning. Unless you're willing to put in the effort for it. Yeah, what was your second?
My second question is, like you gave that example of a person who comes late to work. He has other great qualities as a worker.
Right.
According to your thing is that we should assess him and not say. Isn't then bringing something like that to his attention your responsibility, so that maybe you're creating at least an awareness in that person so they can be aware of
You tell me one thing. How many times have you made your spouse aware of his shortcomings? And tell me one instance where that person has changed. Then I can understand what you're saying. It has absolutely no meaning. Yes, you can say it once, you can tell them twice. But if that's their nature, they will change if they want to change, not if you tell them. So yes, as a boss or a parent, you can definitely make a person aware that, look, this is something you need to look into if they are receptive. But if they don't want to change, then you assess what you need to do. Like I said, having brought it to their nature, the fellow still comes late. Now what? Now you assess. Either the guy should be fired or you got to put up with that. That's it.
Yeah, so my question was, like, do you have that responsibility of bringing up the first?
If they are available, if it is your responsibility and obligation. See, I told you, if they are not available, you have no business. Yeah. Ashok?
Hariam Bakunji, you touched upon briefly. So, even people's mind keep changing around you, very dynamic, right? So, how to operate in the world? Just like, would you suggest to just focus on your action and how you react, and then kind of detach from the situation?
No. First of all, I told you also, people's minds just don't change overnight. Vasana, you have a weakness, let's say, you overeat. You think by tomorrow you will stop doing that? It doesn't work that way. It takes a lot of time and effort to change a person's nature. So what you have to do is assess what their nature is and develop your expectations accordingly. So they won't just change just like that. So that means you made wrong assessments. And if they are fickle-minded, then you must assess that. Yes, they are fickle-minded. One day they say yes, next day they will say no. So I would not depend on that person. You know a person is fickle-minded and your most important job interview, you're giving it to him to deliver. I will not give it to him. I will go deliver it myself. This is how you assess and act accordingly. Akshay.
Hari Om Guruji.
Hmm.
So, when I'm listening to the lecture, I understand the concept, it makes sense, and it would stay with me for a couple of hours, maybe a day, but then go back to the real nature. So
Right.
how do we maintain that mindset continuously and try to implement day to day?
Every morning you have to get up and spend at least 1 hour with your Vedantic study. There is no other way. So we get up at 4. Of course, that is very early for most people. So I would say 5 a.m. Since you're new, I'm repeating most of the class. I've said this before. So 5, because that is the time where the mind is most conducive for spiritual study. So my guru has set this course, 12 books, including the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedanta treatise, which we study on Saturdays. These are the 2 main books, but there are 12 books which give you a comprehensive understanding of life itself. So you should start every morning with a study of the books. And some of you may not know that the entire teaching is there online by Swamiji himself, my guru, 3-year e-learning course. So those of you who are really serious, I would definitely recommend that. Every morning, listen to a lecture. So as you go on getting deeper and deeper, it will stay with you longer and longer. You will find yourself transformed. It takes a while. So you're right. The problem is the desires and attachments are so powerful that whatever effort you put in the spiritual path, it just gets covered by desires. That's what you're saying, it happens. And you're saying one day it remains with you, I congratulate you. One day it remains. Most people after class, one phone call and it's all gone. Forget about one day. So you have to put in effort to go on getting deeper and getting more and more established in the knowledge. There's no other way. So minimum 45 minutes to 1 hour every morning. That will change the whole outlook to your life. Ram.
Hari Om Gakunji. This is more a response to Umesh's question of employee coming late. It's like how you just found that in order to change the habit, you have to change the mindset. And as you're rightly saying, knowledge and improving your intellect is only.
Yeah, but all that will happen if they want to do it, not if you want them to do it. That is the difference. How many seminars and all they keep on having? Nothing happens. Mindset will not change unless you want it to change. By you telling them, that's what I told. You tell your husband, don't lose your temper from tomorrow completely. His mindset has changed. What are we talking? Lahiri.
Hari Om Gautamji, I have a question about the vasanas only. So I don't want to change anybody's vasana, but we all come with our own vasanas, right? So how do I break my vasana so I don't add more karma in this life?
That is Vedanta. How you break your vasanas is by gaining knowledge of the higher. So when you are a child, you are attached to toys. How did you break that attachment? When you became an adult, you understood the adult world is far superior to toys. So your toys vasanas went away. Similarly, you must understand the knowledge of the self, which is the highest. All these stupid vasanas for the world will go. It's like when the sun rises, all the mist goes away. So you need that knowledge. There's no other way. Nahi jnanena sadrisham pavitram iha vidyate. It says in the Gita, there is no purifier like knowledge. It's like fire which burns up wood. Knowledge burns vasanas. That's the only way. Otherwise, they'll come back in some other form. They're too strong. So we'll take up more questions next time since we are out of time, and we'll continue then. Okay? Hari Om.